Hey there Wargamers, and welcome back to another Wargames Delivered video. In this video, we're going to be painting without a plan. Let's get started.
Alright, so for this video I just wanted to do a really relaxed and chill kind of paint without a scheme or a plan type video. I got these awesome little mushroom dudes for a white elephant Christmas present, which was awesome. Thank you, Allie. Shout out to Allie. And so we are going to kind of just play around with some speed paints and not really approach these guys with a plan here. Sometimes it's nice to get into a project and not really know what you're going to do with it and see where it ends up if you have the extra models to do so. So that's what we're doing today. So I'm starting out with sand golem and some speed paint medium on this first guy here. We're going to use this as his sort of skin tone, I guess you would say. We'll just cover the entirety of the model except for, you know, like the top of the mushroom part of his head and some of the details on his body here. So yeah, I'm just kind of picking out the colors as I go, and this is just a great way to detach sometimes if you're working on specific armies that you want painted a certain way. It's nice to just kind of break your paint scheme sometimes, break out of the habit that you're in and just work on something completely different and have no serious attachment to it. So this is a little just a little mental break I like to give myself here and there when I'm working on different models for games and stuff. As you guys probably know, I have a couple armies for A Song of Ice and Fire that I'm working on right now, the miniatures game, and then I also have various other armies and other projects going all simultaneously. I've got some Marvel United stuff on the works, and some 40k stuff, Age of Sigmar stuff, Bolt Action stuff, Malifaux stuff, so a lot of exciting stuff. But sometimes it's easy to look at your pile of shame or pile of opportunity, whatever you want to call it, and just get a little demoralized just by the amount of gray plastic you have staring at you. So I definitely understand that. Sometimes I like to just do a simple project like this to just get me back in the rhythm if I've been out of it for a little bit, and that seems to help, I don't know, give me like a fresh perspective on the hobby. My only general thought with these guys when I picked them up was let's do sort of brown and beige tones for the bodies, and we'll get a little bit more colorful with the more tops of the heads and mushroom parts of the minis. So that was my very simple and loose guideline that I was even willing to change around if needed, but I was pretty happy with how both these guys turned out in the end, even though it was not really planned or thought about super extensively. So just slapping paint on models can be therapeutic in itself, even if it's not, you know, a faction you particularly are interested in or care about a lot. It can really help you just get a new perspective on you know, what you're painting and how you've been painting it. And this was also a good excuse for me to try out some of the more exciting colors in the speed paint line here, like the purple and some of the bright reds. I've used a lot of the browns and greens and, you know, grays and colors of that nature because they have great practical effects, as you've seen in my Game of Thrones miniatures game videos. But these lighter colors and more exotic colors don't really get as much play, I don't think, so I wanted to take them out and kind of see what they can do. Another thing, and this is something I do to myself quite often, is I'll put off models until I feel like I'm a better painter to paint them later, and that will just mean that they'll sit there for days, weeks, months, years, so on. And this is a good way to just, you know, not really have an attachment to anything and just, you know, take your brain off of what you've been working on and just take a little bit of time to yourself, just slap some paint on some models and see what happens. Sometimes you can get some really good results and end up, you know, finding things that you wouldn't have done otherwise. You know, typically when you're painting an army, you're doing a lot of the same paint scheme in a similar way. So sometimes it's really helpful to break the mold, see what other type of techniques are out there, and see what else you can do with your models. And in terms of how quick I made decisions on this model here, I was pretty pleased with how it turned out. The purple worked really well with the skin tone I created, and matched pretty well to the accent colors. I think I may have made a misstep here in giving him grim black on the eyes. I think I may have robbed the model of his soul. I think I probably should have tried for something else, but nonetheless, he came out okay. Even if, when you're working on your practice models, if something doesn't work out the way you want it to, it's a lesson in itself in that, you know not to do that from then on. So this little guy will just have to be soulless, and that's okay. And so moving on to our other little mushroom guy, I'm going to use the Pallid Bone and Speed Paint Medium and kind of do a 1-to-1 ratio here and try to do a very thinned down version of the speed paint on this guy and just kind of see what happens with the quote-unquote skin tone on this one. I've used the Pallid Bone quite a bit, just without the Speed Paint Medium, on B1 battle droids and some skeletons and stuff. And it works pretty well, but I haven't thinned it down with the medium, so I'm really interested to see how this looks when it dries. And I know it's not always practical to, always be spending money on practice models. You want to collect your army, and with these hobbies, I know that can be very expensive, but sometimes, for $5 here and there, for some Bones miniatures, it's, in my opinion, I feel like it's worth it to try out new techniques and learn different things without sacrificing, the models that you may value more. And I was actually very pleased with how the Speed Paint Medium and Pallid Bone turned out together. Worked as a very subtle version of the color and added some nice shadows down by his feet and his fingers, so I was very happy with that. I wanted to make this guy a very traditional little mushroom fellow, so I went with blood red to just give him that nice sort of ivory and red kind of mushroom look. And so this is really an experiment in trying out new paints. I'm not really trying to make sure the model looks 100% perfect. I'm just, kind of experimenting and seeing what each of these speed paints that I haven't really tested too much can do. You will see me switch over to another brush here to kind of get the under part of the mushroom there. But for the most part, I used the same brush for everything here, or two brushes, I think, for most of this project, and really just looking to see what these different speed paints can do, what their strengths are, and how well they look when they're paired with the medium. And this was actually one of the color combinations I was most pleased with during this experiment. He turned out really well, in my opinion. I love that red and ivory contrast. So I decided to do a little bit of the hardened leather here on his back. He's got some weird little bumps on his back, so I figured I'd cover these up with this color. I figured that would contrast the skin very nicely. And that's kind of the whole purpose of this, is just kind of getting into a project and seeing where it goes. Sometimes you know where you want to end up, sometimes you know how you want to get there, but sometimes it's good to work without either of those things. It's always good to test yourself in whatever hobby you have. Alright, and I think we have a nice effect here going with the hardened leather and the Pallid Bone on this mini here, and I wanted to give this one a soul. I felt bad about the other guy giving him grim black eyes, so we're going to switch over to Plasmatic Bolt. We're just going to dot his eyes here very carefully and trying to avoid the Pallid Bone as best as possible. And in my opinion, this guy came out 10 times better than the other guy, but that's the point of experimenting. As always, guys, thanks for watching another one of our videos. Please feel free to check out the top link in the description below to take part in the giveaway, and as always, happy wargaming.